Welcome to Lighten the Legal Career Path. I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. Whether you're a new attorney looking for inspirational guidance or further along in your career, wondering how to get to the next level, or someone that's just simply curious about the legal world, you're in the right place. We'll be talking to female and BIPOC attorneys not only about their remarkable stories of success, but the challenges they've faced along the way, the lessons they've learned, and their valuable insights about their career and the road ahead.
So my name is Cynthia Grande. I am the founder and CEO of the Grande Law Firm. We help immigrant families live without fear and achieve the American dream.
Welcome, Cynthia, to the show. I'm so happy to have you here today. So, thank you for taking the time out to speak with me this morning. Really great to see you. I've been looking forward to this conversation. There's so much that I want to explore and dive into with you as well. So, just to give our listeners a little bit of background, so I met Cynthia through the Dr. Yasmin program, the entrepreneur program recently, and was definitely inspired by her story and all the hard work that she's put in to grow her firm. So, our episode today is going to be focused on how Cynthia has been able to really grow her firm into what it is today. The highlights, the pitfalls, and everything in between for those listeners who are intrigued about, well, what does it look like to start your own law firm? So, with that being said, let's dive into the first question. Cynthia, you have had your law firm since 2012. What inspired you to take the leap into entrepreneurship? It's not an easy feat. And did your upbringing affect this decision? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I never actually planned to start my own law firm. There are those people in law school that had that big dream goal, and that definitely wasn't the case for me. I always thought that I would work at a firm and just kind of work my way up. And I graduated law school during the recession
Mm-hmm.
in 2009, and I was working in doing bankruptcy law. And this was a time where there were a lot of families that were under a lot of distress. And, I was a brand new attorney just jumping in at a small firm. And quickly I realized that I could make a big impact for families, um, and make sure that I was in an environment where I was uh, empowering the families that we served, and also building a team that had values that were aligned with mine. And I just decided to leave the firm I was working at and do my own thing.
Good for you.
I was 27 years old, didn't know what I was getting myself into. But really, reflecting back, it was definitely the best decision I could have made. And I'm just so grateful now to be able to make the kind of impact that I envisioned that I would be making when I took that step all those years ago.
Wonderful. So, Cynthia, so you decide to start your own law firm, and what does that look like for in the first year for you?
So what it looked like was a lot of sharing. I think that one of the things that people sometimes will give you as advice is don't tell people what you're up to until you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the opposite approach. I really thought that, I wanted to make an impact in the community, and I just started sharing about that with people.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start a law firm, really make a difference. And it was out of doing that I started getting connected to people that connected me to opportunities. I met someone when I was volunteering at a nonprofit org, and they connected me with someone who they were looking for someone to share office space with. And that person ended up being like one of my mentors and one of my biggest supporters early on. I was an
Mm-hmm.
attorney doing bankruptcy law, and just kind of took off from there.
Awesome, awesome. Um, as you look back, so you've had your firm for over 10 years now. As you look
Mhm.
back, what were some of the initial challenges that you had, and was there any fear when when you took that leap? Was there any fear, and what were some of those initial challenges that you had?
Some of the initial challenges that I had definitely were around understanding the business aspect of
Mm-hmm.
a law firm. I I think that no one really tells you when you open your own law firm that you not just have to be a business owner. I mean, not just a lawyer, but you're actually a business owner, right?
Absolutely. You've got that
And
dual duty, right? That you're juggling both.
yes, and even though I think law schools now are now kind of catching on to that and providing some more resources than they used to, I
Hmm.
definitely didn't have that. So for the first couple of years, I was very much focused on being the lawyer and not really understanding the business side of it. And it wasn't until, a couple of years in that I realized I needed to um, get connected to other business owners,
Hmm.
business consultants to really help me see that bigger picture that I was too in the weeds to be able to see at the time.
Got it. Okay. And in terms of that, talking about that business side of things, um, how do you sort of carve out your time to, do you carve out time to focus on the business versus being in the business at this point? And how did you balance that earlier on, or were you able to?
I definitely do carve that time out now. And I think one of the things that I'm learning as I'm growing the firm and growing the business is that there's, you'll carve out the time and then you'll get to like the next level in business. And then
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice like, oh, your time gets pulled into different directions. So I think the key thing that I'm learning along the way is that you definitely have to be surrounded by the right people to be able
Right.
to be intentional with my time as the CEO of the company to make sure that the firm is growing and serving our clients the way we want to, and also, serving our staff as well, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of different hats that you're wearing. Tell us more about the practice. How you specifically, so you've served over 2,000 families within your practice right
Hmm.
now. Tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about your practice specifically, and what you do, what your team does day to day to help those families.
Yes, so we started off doing bankruptcy law because that's what I was doing at the time I started my firm, and I'm grateful. Thanks to my parents, I am fluent in Spanish as well as English, and most of my clients ended up being Spanish speakers who
Hmm.
many were looking for immigration services. So over time, these families kept on asking for immigration law help, and I had done a little bit of that before becoming a lawyer. And after referring clients out, and they kept on coming back to me saying, "We want to work with you," I realized, I could really make a difference in that community. So I got a lot of mentors, and now that is primarily the type of law that we do, immigration law. So we typically work with families, mixed status families. Someone's a U.S. citizen, the other person is not, and we're trying to find ways for to legalize their family member status so that they can live here with peace of mind,
Hmm.
that they can live their life free, free to be able to go after their dreams.
Got it. Got it. Wonderful. We're going to talk a little bit later about sort of the current political climate. But first, back to this, the practice. Do you have any particularly impactful stories that has reinforced your commitment to this work, or continues to reinforce your commitment to this work and in expanding your firm as well?
Yeah, I mean, every I think every week I'm just inspired by our clients. The people that we work with are very hardworking, kind, humble,
Hmm.
right? And all they want to do is provide for their families and loved ones. So there is a client who was living here since the 1970s, and he had had some interactions with immigration. He had made some mistakes along the way, and he found himself in removal proceedings. And
Hmm.
he was the sole provider for his two children. And if he were to be deported, his kids would be here without him. And he had a lot of health issues. His kids did as well. But after it was nearly 8 years that we
Hmm.
were in immigration proceedings, aside from the time that he had already been here, which was like 30 plus years, he finally got his residency just under like a deadline, like within a day before he wouldn't have been eligible for this relief anymore. So just being able to see the relief and the joy on his face and his children's faces, it just moments like that really make it worth it, especially people who have been here for such a long time and are the backbone of our society. So I can go on and on. We have lots of clients like that.
This show is sponsored by Roundhill Legal Search. For the past 10 years, Roundhill Search has been placing attorneys of all levels with our trusted clients, from AmLaw 100 firms to the solo practitioner. Visit us at roundhillsearch.com for more information, to find great legal talent, or to step into your next legal role. Yeah, no, I'm sure you've got stories sort of every week that's continue to inspire you to continue to do this work. Internally, just in terms of your staff and finding the right team members for your company as well, what did that look like from the start? You're a solopreneur. Were you a
Mhm.
solopreneur when you started, or
Mhm.
did you start with anybody else? How did that grow? What did that growth look like for you?
Yeah, I did start off on my own because I didn't know anything about business, like I
Yeah.
said earlier, right? So I didn't know I would actually need help. And then over the years, I realized I did need some assistance support,
Hmm.
and I put a job out on Craigslist at the time, and the person that ultimately got that assistant role is someone who had no legal law firm experience, but this person had the passion, the commitment to really serve immigrant families, and the willingness to learn. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that, it's really important to have people on your team that are aligned with your values, with your um, kind of vision for the kind
Hmm.
of business that you want to be. And, now this is someone who's been with me for almost 11 years now.
Oh, wow, that's
And,
wonderful.
um, and, now she's grown into, different roles since she started. But really, that that demonstrated to me that it's not necessarily the technical skills that are critical, but it's
Hmm.
really the vision and the values that make the difference with staffing.
Yeah, wonderful. Is there anything now that you're sort of over 10 years on, or over 12 years on even, is there anything you would have done differently when you started?
Yes, I think I would have gotten that business technical experience earlier on.
Hmm.
I I didn't realize the importance of making sure that you have the right like bookkeeper, the right
Hmm.
like business attorney, the right CPA. Like there's
A
all
whole
of
team,
those,
isn't it?
yeah, administrative side of your firm, that's important because those are foundational things that allow you and your team to be able to focus on, the clients, the services you provide. So I think having the knowledge and just kind of understanding the nuances of how a business works and what you can do from the beginning to scale
Hmm.
is what I would have done differently when I started.
Got it. Is it a path that you would encourage others to take at this point? Now that in hindsight, would you encourage others to think about, establishing their own firms as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely encourage it. I think that entrepreneurship is um, a way in which, especially people that are first generation,
Hmm.
and come from, um, you know, lower socioeconomic statuses, that it really is a way that you can make an impact in the community and also build wealth. And
Yeah.
I think that it's not spoken about enough. And um, especially I think women and minority owned businesses,
Hmm.
they're so hardworking, and um, if we have the tools at the beginning to know how to grow your business, you can really just do a lot of good in the community.
Absolutely. And again, just going back to where we came into contact, and I'll give Dr. Yasmin a plug here. She's got
Mhm.
a wonderful entrepreneurial program. I've been an advisor in the program for a lot of years now. Um, Tell me what the impact of that program was on you and your business. Essentially, it's a pretty intense program for minority or BIPOC entrepreneurs. Not for the faint of heart. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. But tell me about your experience with that program and how it impacted you.
Yes, it was a wonderful experience. I think one of the things that really drew me to the program was Dr. David's, just like the what she's been able to accomplish and grow
Mhm.
over the years. She's someone that I've has always been very inspiring to me, and she's created a community of leaders around her who are able to guide and mentor business owners like myself to really look at their business through a different lens to be able to find the opportunities to grow.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that I got the most out of being in the program, just being able to look at my business in a different way and to be able to identify opportunities for growth. And I think the more I think personal for me thing that I got out of being in the program is having the confidence to go after like a bigger vision,
Mhm.
and I think I have a lot of, um, besides growing my business, there's just a lot of different things that I want to do out in the world, and being able to discover what it looks like to be confident and unapologetic as you
Right.
have this big vision. I think being in the program has really inspired me to step out of my comfort zone in different areas and own my leadership and who I am out in the world.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Um, can you share a moment in your either in your just your firm's life or your personal professional life that has been sort of your crowning moment, the moment that has made you particularly proud?
I would say that
I can think of
I,
one if you can't think of it. That should make you proud, should I say?
yeah, I think there one of the things that I don't know if it's like a moment per se, but what I would when I look at the staff I have, and we have a virtual our staff is mainly virtual. We
Mhm.
offer that flexibility. And being able to have the feedback from the people that work for me say that they're excited to come to work, that they're looking forward to being there, that they're proud to be a part of a company that makes a difference for families, that they're able to share stories from colleagues, from friends, or colleagues from friends that are complaining about their work or complaining about their coworkers, and they're like, "We don't have that here."
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
for people to be able to actually be fulfilled out of being a part of the work that we do, like that. That's just like it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that when I so it's not one moment, but just when those moments come up, it's just like I know I'm on the right path.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. The moment that I was actually thinking of, and we can move into the segment, you recently became the president of the Latina Lawyers Association, which is huge. Can you talk about that role, how it's been for you so far, the initiatives that you're working on, really to impact the community of Latina lawyers and the new lawyers that are coming up as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely very, very proud of that. It's the Latino Lawyers Bar Association. It's a nonprofit organization that's based in Los Angeles, who and the founders of the organization really had the vision that this could be a resource for all Latinas in the legal profession or Latina supporters out in the
Hmm.
world, like all over the country, right? So this year I stepped into that role as president, really with the intention to be able to um, see that vision start to come to life in a whole new way. So one of the things that we've done this year is host events throughout California and really sharing about the work that we're doing, to be able to create opportunities for us to have an impact. One day I would love for there to be like, a national conference convention for the Latino Lawyers Bar Association hosted in, New York or Texas
Hmm.
or Florida.
Love that
Um,
vision.
so yeah, so it's been really great, and the reason why it's been great is because of the leaders that make up the board. We're a completely volunteer board,
Hmm.
and these are just dynamic leaders out in the community that I'm just so grateful that I get to work alongside to really impact the legal community in a positive way.
Absolutely. And not like you don't have enough on your plate, right, already with running your firm and everything. But
Yeah.
what really called to you? What was the call in to be the president, and what made you want to lead this organization?
The calling to lead this organization really stems back to, I think, my first experience going to my first event for LLBA.
Hmm.
I didn't know that this was a resource when I was in law school, and law school is a very tough environment. It was a challenging experience for me, and it could feel lonely a lot of
Hmm.
the times, especially when you're in the first year of your family to have that kind of experience. So, as a new attorney, once I went to an LLBA event, it just was such a warm, welcoming space
Space.
that I wanted to be able to um, really cultivate that space and make it accessible for more members in the community. So really, that was the pull to just say, I'm just gonna go for it, and it's been great.
If you're enjoying today's conversation, please share with another attorney in your network and send us your questions to podcast@roundhillsearch.com. Wonderful. And it was probably when we find these communities, and we need to be, I always say to younger lawyers, there are a lot of younger lawyers that I speak to through Round Hill Search that are not aware of these organizations still. We think it's a given that, oh, yeah, of course you know that there's a Latino
Hmm.
Lawyers Bar Association. There are a lot of lawyers out there
Hmm.
that don't know about these associations that are really great communities, safe communities, communities in which you can network, communities in which you can grow as well. How are you all continuing to get the word out, and what are some of the initiatives that you're working on this year specifically with the Bar Association?
Yeah, so some of the things that we're doing is really making sure we create events that are accessible to the larger community, even if people aren't LA based. So we're creating an advocacy series that's going to go online for MCLE credits, so that people can, one, get the knowledge to be able to be an advocate or resource in the community, but two, to connect and network with other similarly minded individuals that want to be a part of this community. We're also looking at ways that we can expand the scholarships that we provide and bar stipends to our law students and recently graduated um, soon to be lawyers,
Hmm.
and really that expansion, building collaborative relationships with different organizations in the community to be able to find ways that we can support one another and amplify the efforts that we're all doing.
Wonderful. Well, consider us to be a part of your community. We are
Mm.
offering in 2026, Light in the Legal Career Path is offering a scholarship for a completely paid Barbary course as well. So
Oh, wonderful.
have that as an extension of. Oh, there's another resource. So definitely tell your
Yeah.
members about that as well, so they can come and listen to some of these interviews and just get these pearls of wisdom from guests such as yourself. With my last guest, we were talking about challenges and the resilience that BIPOC women generally have to have in our lives. It's just part of our makeup, just it just is, right? Can you talk about the resilience that you've had to have, any challenges that you've really had to overcome, and how you've been able to overcome them?
Yes, I think resilience is a definitely a key ingredient to success. Being a lawyer, a BIPOC lawyer, I think that, I mean, from being in law school, and I think when I graduated my class, I was one of three Latinas in my graduating class in
Mm-hmm.
2009. And then going to the courtroom and people mistaking you for an interpreter or the defendant, even though you're wearing a full suit and you've got the
Right.
briefcase. And then, as I have grown in different leadership roles, with Latino Lawyers Bar Association, I'm on a board of foundation, I'm on the board of trustees for the California State Bar. Being able to express your opinion, and express your views. What's the word I want to use? Um, Sometimes it takes courage to speak up in
Mm-hmm.
different spaces, and I'm always discovering what that looks like, because as I grow and expand, and I hope to just be able to make a larger impact in the community, I know that in some spaces I'll be the first person with
Yeah.
my particular experience speaking in those rooms, but it's important to do so. So resilience is definitely a key factor in
Yeah.
ensuring that you can still keep on moving forward,
Yeah.
even when you don't necessarily get the best response. Yeah.
One foot in front of the other. So, talking about that, what's been your biggest challenge or biggest hurdle, whether it be with the firm or with you, whether it be with a particular client or professionally as a whole? What's been your biggest challenge?
I would say that my biggest challenge has been being comfortable with owning the value that I provide. I think that that's something I'm
Still working
still
on it.
working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I and one thing I'm really grateful for is I have a community around me that's very supportive, that they
Hmm.
remind me, like, no,
Right.
Cynthia, you've done
Look
all
what
of this
you've
work.
done.
Yeah. And even yesterday, I we got a motion to reopen granted on an immigration case. And I had my writing law professor,
Hmm.
my first year law school, made a comment that basically was like, "You're not going to make it as a lawyer with this writing." And this was after like getting praise for my writing
Yeah.
in college, right? And then you have your professor tell you you're a terrible writer.
Wow.
And then getting motions approved and getting feedback. I've been in court where um, the opposing counsel will tell me, like, it was such a well written motion, like, thank you for
Wow.
provide, right.
That's great.
um but I think I still have to battle the voice from when I was like 21 years old or 22
Hmm.
years old, and the professor told me you're a terrible writer. Like, that's still the voice that's in my head. So
Yeah.
being able to move past that is, I think, the biggest challenge, to not listen to those negative thoughts, and really own who I am, and the value that I provide now.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that you say that. I had a conversation with a friend the other day just about that, an incident that happened, when I was 18, but it's still there at the back of my mind. And the individual was asking, well, how do you sort of combat that? How have you been able to combat that? And I was saying that as you go through your career and life, you just have to collect the evidence that supports you, right? Collect,
Hmm.
and you've just the opposing counsel saying that was really well written. Okay, let me collect that piece of evidence. Let me
Hmm.
collect the evidence because that supports me in my favor in the positive. So I really like that. And for our listeners, you got to go through life collecting the evidence because sometimes that one negative voice can be the loudest voice, but we got to make it the quietest as well. Um, so, what are I want to know about you personally, and we've got Erica's Fun Five, which we'll jump into a little later. But everybody has stress. Everybody has different
Hmm.
ways in the way that they handle stress. You're balancing your personal life, you're balancing the actual practice, you're balancing a business. I know that there's a lot of stress that comes with that.
Mhm.
How do you balance it? What do you do? What advice do you have for some of our listeners who are thinking, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to manage and balance all of that?
Mhm. I think that each person has to come up with their own routine, their own, whatever it is that really keeps them grounded. So for me, there's a couple of things I do. One, I'm really big on mindset and really being able to um, focus on growing personally, because I know that if I grow personally, then that will allow me to be able to do all these things out in the community. So I definitely invest in personal development, whether it's courses or reading books or listening to podcasts. But definitely I do something every day around my mindset so that I'm
Great.
clear, ready to go. Um, i will not all the time, is something I'm working on, but being able to um, journal and really clear clear be clear for myself what's the future that I want to have in my life, just so that that keeps me grounded. That's my North Star.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I do like massages, I get facials.
Love that. That's why your
Um,
skin looks so amazing.
this tomorrow for Latino Lawyers Bar Association, we have a sound bath event that we're
Oh,
doing to
great.
recognize, right? Like we need those moments.
Yeah.
So, um, and I do some kickboxing here and there to just kind of get the stress out.
Yeah.
And I think that the the other big factor is really surrounding myself by people that are positive, that bring like great energy into my life. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really fortunate that I have that kind of relationship with my family, that they're able to be that community for me. And I also have a wonderful friends and wonderful colleagues, professionally, that I can turn to whenever I just need someone to, like, send me some
Send me some
sunshine.
positive energy.
Yes, the sunshine. So, yeah, definitely the people you surround yourself with makes a really big difference.
Wonderful, wonderful. What advice would you have for your younger self, going back now, first starting out, maybe 1 or 2 years into practice? What would you go back and tell her?
Mm. I would tell her to work on being uh, just being more decisive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's now something that I'm learning, how the importance of making decisions quickly.
Yeah.
Um, my default way is, as for a lot of lawyers, I think it's you have to analyze the situation, look at all the different options, and then you make a decision. But when it comes to business, that delay can really like prolong your growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would tell myself to do some mindset work so you can make decisions more quickly right away, because I think my trajectory for growth would have been um, different if I had done that.
Got it. And so that's something you've worked on over the years, just becoming more decisive. What have you done specifically so that you are more decisive? Because I'm still working on that, by the way, decisiveness.
Yeah, yeah,
Got any tips?
yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I've been doing lately is listening to like podcasts or interviews of business owners that are ahead of where I am,
Mm,
and where they're sharing what their thought process is. And I'm just noticing that a common denominator is, having that confidence to just take the action quickly, because they're looking at the way that they analyze the decisions is different than how I analyze it. I'm like, how do I minimize risk
mm-hmm.
as much as possible? But that's not necessarily the framework that these successful entrepreneurs use. So learning from that, and then bringing it to my life, and then creating my own decision making framework.
Got it. Got it. So let's turn our attention, because I know some of our listeners are probably intrigued to get your sort of thoughts and insight into the current political climate as well, with ICE and what's happening in a lot of our cities and communities. Um, As an immigration attorney, how are you managing cases where clients are at risk of ICE actions, and what strategies do you recommend to protect sort of the vulnerable individuals in our communities?
Well, I would say that the management piece is something that we're just in the ongoing discovery of what that looks like, because the current way that laws are being applied has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Not the laws themselves, but the interpretation of the laws
Right.
by the administration, which is what's created a lot of the chaos that we're seeing out in the world right
Mm-hmm.
now. So I think being able to stay focused on what the law is and how we can utilize the law to be able to help our clients, that's what
Mm-hmm.
our attention is on. But really, the best thing that people can do right now is to get the knowledge, get informed, get the knowledge that they need, both in terms of how to protect their rights, in case they do have an encounter with ICE. And really, anyone can have an encounter with immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Undocumented, you're a US citizen, everyone needs to know what their rights are. And for people, families who do have someone who's undocumented, finding out what the options are. A lot of times people haven't talked to an attorney at all because their cousin, their uncle, their aunt, someone has told them, oh no, you can't do anything. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
bother to ask. But there
Got
are a
it.
lot of families that will be surprised and to hear that no, you actually could qualify for something. You could have qualified for this 10 years ago, right?
Wow.
Like where
Yeah.
this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
So making sure that they're speaking to a trusted um, immigration attorney to know what their options are is key.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if there are, and to find out if there are no options, right? And if there are no options, being able to understand, well, if there aren't any options right now, then this is a plan we can put into place
Yeah.
in case anything were to happen.
Right. If there are no options, what are my options? Because there's always a path, whatever it
Mhm.
may be. But I think you bring
Mhm.
up a really good point, that some people they don't know and yet still aren't seeking out the information, making assumptions, right, without the actual information. So, is that pretty much your advice for clients living in fear of ICE raids? And is that your advice? Seek out counsel.
Yeah, but making sure that who they're seeking out is someone who is an immigration attorney who has experience, because right now, there are unfortunately a lot of people that don't do immigration law or
Mm-hmm.
haven't done immigration law that now are like, we do immigration law, and they don't know what they're doing. So it's really important to ask, what kind of experience the person has. Are they involved with any local bar associations or
Mm-hmm.
national bar associations that they use to stay up to date on immigration law?
Right.
So, for example, I'm a part of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. I'm a part of the immigration section for the LA County Bar Association. I'm in different groups, where I can get information on the latest
Mm-hmm.
changes in immigration law. So, you want to make sure whoever you're talking to is someone who is involved with those kind of organizations.
Right, and is up to date with the most current information as well.
Yes.
I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. As the president and founder of Round Hill Legal Search, I've spent over 2 decades connecting with incredible attorneys day in and day out. I decided it was high time that we share some of their remarkable stories, lessons, insights, and inspiration with the world. Join us as we have wonderful conversations with our guests, or simply a session talking about some career tips, advice for you as you light your own legal career path. Okay, so I would say let's hop into our Erica's Fun Five.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the best advice that you've ever received from your mother or your grandmother or an influential woman in your life. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've received is to to trust myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that trust that there is um, a bigger force like guiding me, taking care of me, so that
Mm-hmm.
I just keep on going with my gut. So trusting myself has been the best advice I've
Okay.
gotten.
Have you always followed that as well, that advice? Because
No,
sometimes it's
I
hard to,
know.
right?
Yeah, no. And when I don't, I suffer the consequences. So
Right.
it's something I continually have to remind myself, because when I don't, typically
Things
the
go
results.
awry.
Yeah, yeah. So
Got it. What do you put into place now so that you're reminded of that? Because I think we can all be reminded of that. No matter what stage of your career or life that you're at, there is you have this internal guide as well, and we don't always listen to it. So what do you do now to sort of remind yourself of it?
I think a new question that I have, because one of the when I look at when I don't trust my gut, is when I do something because I want to be nice, because
Mm,
I feel like some kind of obligation to help someone,
yeah,
and like and I think when I go down that route is when it doesn't turn out well. So I ask myself, am I doing this because I'm choosing to do this, or am I doing it because I want to be nice? And
right.
if it's I want to be nice, then I gotta let it go.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Okay, good stuff. The most impactful book you have ever read,
Mm, mm,
and it might be a business book
yeah.
because I know as entrepreneurs we're
Hmm.
always reading, you know, business books
Hmm.
about growing companies and being better leaders and all of that good stuff.
I think it's actually not a business book. It's a book I read when I was a kid, when I was in fourth grade,
Hmm.
called The Giver. And I say it was the most impactful because it was, I don't know if you're from, well, for those who aren't familiar with the story, it's, the society where peoples have their roles determined at birth, not at birth, but basically predetermined destiny. And this
Hmm.
kid decides to do something different. And it's impactful just because the courage, right, to like not do what the status quo tells you to do. But it was with that book that I really started to discover my love for reading, and
Mm.
getting like really appreciating the process of getting into a good book. And I think that's what has allowed me to read all the books I've read since then. But really, that's what opened my eyes to my love of reading and writing. So.
Wonderful. The Giver. Okay.
Mhm.
What's one thing that you haven't accomplished yet? And I think we talked about this some weeks ago, but what's the one thing you haven't accomplished yet? And I know you've got a lot of goals, and your vision is quite big, but that you still are very intent on making happen before you expire.
Mm, I want to big goal I have is I want to transform the conversation around immigration,
Mm-hmm.
like how people talk about immigrants and immigration law. And the way specifically I would want to impact it is that we insert empathy into the
Mm-hmm.
conversation,
Mm-hmm.
where people look at it through the context of empathy, and being able to shift that mentality when it comes to this area of law. I think that's my big vision, and being able
Mm-hmm.
to do that all while having a family.
Right.
I don't have kids yet, but having kids, raising kids, and being able to cultivate my relationship with my parents and extended family and friends and loved ones. So, and growing my businesses. But being if I was able to do something in that realm along with all those other things, it would just be amazing.
Gosh, and I have no doubt that you will definitely do it. What are your what's your sort of vision for how you're going to do that as well? Like through you're doing it already, right, through the
Mhm.
various vehicles, but do you have
Mhm.
ideas for, other ways in which you want to do that so that the conversation is sort of changed or
Yeah, I think it goes back to the, how I started my firm when sharing about it and being able to inspire someone
mhm
by me talking about this. And maybe when they're then talking about immigration, they say, it would be great if we just could talk about it with some empathy, right? And they're
mhm
talking to their neighbor, and then that person talks to their spouse, and that person talks about it to their coworker, right? Where we start to just kind of infuse that into the conversation. And, I think collaborating with leaders
mhm
who have this kind of vision so that they can then share it out into the world.
Wonderful. Yeah, one conversation at a time. I love that.
Hmm.
Okay. Favorite quote and why?
Oh, this is a good one. Let me, let me pull it up so I can say it exactly. It's a quote by George Bernard Shaw,
Mhm
and I heard it at the end of I did a course on personal development, and they gave us this quote at the end, and this is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as the mighty one, the being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that
mhm
the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle for me. It is sort of a splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. We're going to put that in the notes of the show. Um,
Mm.
God, I love it.
Yeah.
What what speaks to you about it?
I think really in my day to day, it can get it's so easy to get caught up in like the small things that aren't working, the complaint here, the complaint there. But, there's that big vision I have for myself, for my family, and, for my communities.
Mhm.
And when I stay focused on that, I know that it'll pull me into action so that
Yeah.
I can, whenever my time is done here, I can look back and say, yep, I've done all that there is for me to do, and
Right.
just confident that I didn't I didn't get stuck in the weeds
In the
and the
weeds. Yeah.
complaints.
Absolutely. I've been talking a lot about that lately, being stuck in the weeds of things, the things that are really sort of unimportant for the sake of the bigger vision. Like, how can we elevate above that? Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to put that in the notes for our listeners
Mm,
to go back and read.
mm.
And then the last question, hero or shiro and why?
Shiro, um, because my very first Shiro is my mom, and we all have moms, and we wouldn't be here without our moms.
Hmm.
So, yeah, Shiro.
Wonderful, wonderful. Cynthia, thank you so much. We are at time. I want to thank you for spending some time this morning with me. I know you're very, very busy. You've got 1,001 things going on. Thank you for the gems of wisdom. Thank you for taking the time out. Really enjoyed speaking to you this morning. And we will share your voice and help you in your bigger goal of changing that conversation as well. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in and listening. I'm your host, Erica Moore-Burton. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure that you share and subscribe to get new episodes as they come out. If you're an attorney looking for new opportunities, head to www.roundhillsearch.com to get in contact with one of our recruiting associates.
And don't forget to send your career questions to podcast@roundhillsearch.com. Until next time.